Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today, I want to talk about some manga that I read back on that manga grind, and I am once again exploring a series that has interested me, and I wanted to make my way through. This particular volume focuses on castle sieges and people with giant swords. I am referring to Berserk Volume 7 by Kentaro Miura, which was published in 1993. Look at how sexily Casca is posing here. For those who don't know, Kentaro Miura is a Japanese manga writer. He died in the recent past, but he was very well regarded for the manga that he wrote, primarily celebrated for the Berserk series, which he got transformed into video games and also a TV show that had a pretty short run, I think. I should eventually watch that, but yeah, that's probably something for the future. I don't need to talk about Kentaro much more, only that I definitely recommend this series, as all 7 volumes that I've read have been pretty high quality, and have provided me with a lot to think about, and certainly a lot of fun things to gawk at, because the art is amazing, and I'm gonna talk about that later in the analysis section here too. So without further ado, let's talk about Volume 7 of Berserk. I will do a summary, a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. So Volume 7 of Berserk picks up where Volume 6 left off. Casca and Guts were in a fight with a big, powerful soldier. And they fell off a cliff and had to hide in a cave to protect themselves and heal from their injuries. And there seemed to be like an intimate moment between the two of them. And Casca began sharing more about her relationship to Griffith, noting how she was sort of exploited before, and then when she met Griffith, everything changed. She kind of viewed him as a heroic type figure, leading the band of the Hawk and helping them to elevate themselves in the process. And she just notes at one point Griffith shared his dream with her, noting that he even though he says like the deaths don't affect him, the deaths of his men clearly do in some way, but he views it as a necessary, like their deaths will serve in him accomplishing his dreams, and he can carry everyone up in the process, which sounds kind of noble, but when you actually look at it, it comes off as somewhat psychopathic. But that's the person who Griffith is. And Casca notes that she feels jealous of Guts because the first time he's ever said that he cares about anyone is when Guts showed up to join the band of the Hawk. And Casca, he's never really indicated any romantic feeling for Casca, even though she's been in a relationship somewhat with him over this time. And as they're hiding in this cave, the enemy comes patrolling by, including one of the people who knocked them off the cliff in the first place. They manage to fight a lot of the enemy. Casca goes and runs for help, while Guts proceeds to slaughter everyone in a kind of badass scene there. And then Casca's attacked by a couple people as she's running away. She manages to fight them off, and the band of the Hawk come and save them, and they return to camp, where Griffith acknowledges the efforts of both of them, which makes Casca pretty happy. But as they're sitting by the fire later, Guts tells Casca that he intends to leave, that he thinks it's very noble that Griffith has a goal like this and whatnot, but all that matters for him is the next battle, and he can't just kind of sit still in one place. So as soon as this campaign is over, he's going to move on. At the same time, the king, the kingdom that Griffith is mercenarying for, wants to attack they want to end the war, and so they have to attack the castle of Doldrey, the town, the village, or the enmeshed kingdom, or whatever you want to call it. Griffith volunteers for this, even though it seems like a dangerous mission. And Guts even notes that he has faith in Griffith because he's never steered them wrong before. And so Griffith and the Band of the Hawks attack, and the enemies in Doldrey Castle seem to think that he's foolish because he's just coming right toward them and blocking off his potential escape. But the enemy decides to attack in an effort to finish him. The king in particular feels that Griffith is nothing, that he can just defeat the Band of the Hawk without issue. And at that point, Griffith does a tactical retreat, which the king doesn't recognize. And this leads Guts to sort of slaughter everyone. And then Casca invades because no one's looking at her and her group of people. And she manages to beat up Sir Adon, who was trying to attack earlier, and he seemingly surrenders. And at the same time, Guts manages to kill a lot of men, including Sir Boscoin, who is sort of the head honcho henchman of this kingdom. And as the story comes to a close, Adon reveals that his surrender was a trick, and he shoots Casca with an arrow that has a narcotic in it that might make her a bit sleepy. And so things do not seem good for Casca as the story comes to a close. In terms of analysis, there is a fair bit to talk about with Volume 7 here. A lot of very interesting art, which you may have seen around the video, as well as some themes that Miura is continuing to explore. One of those themes is, of course, Griffith's dream. I talked about this in the previous volume, how Griffith believes that the height of anything is to have ambition, to have something to work towards, and anyone who doesn't have ambition is nothing in his eyes. That he just doesn't respect those kinds of people who live life just to live it. And Miura adds on to this by noting that Griffith it feels very highly of ambition, to the point where it sort of encompasses his entire life, especially when it comes to viewing the deaths of his men. We see this through the eyes of Casca when she's recounting her experience with joining the Band of the Hawk and her relationship with Griffith. Griffith sees deaths as necessary, that he indicates that he doesn't feel bad about the deaths of his men, that they knew what they were getting into. But it's clear, based on the art and whatnot, that it does weigh heavy on him. There's an interesting quote that I would like to read to you from this. "But if for their sakes, for the sake of the dead, if there's something I can do, that thing is to win. I'll keep winning to fulfill my dream to which they clung. Putting their lives on the line, my dream can only be realized by building upon their corpses. It's a blood-smeared dream. I have neither regret nor remorse about that. But for hundreds, thousands of lives to hang in the balance, and myself alone not to be unclean, what I want won't enter my grasp so easily as that." And that's a very fascinating quote from Griffith. And while he's saying that, he's scratching at his arm while he's naked in a body of water, just like causing himself to bleed. And I think there's a discrepancy there, where he's saying that he's willing to just walk over even his allies. He's willing to use his allies as a bridge to get to where he wants to go. But if he's scratching himself like that, he clearly feels some guilt and feels a little bit unclean in the process. So a little discrepancy. But I truly believe that Griffith is so ambitious that he's willing to use his men as a sacrifice if it helps him in some capacity. And he's going to justify it by saying, "Oh, they were helping me make the world a better place, or make myself in a better place down the road." And so for Griffith, you are part of his dream, whether you like it or not. If you don't have any goals or whatnot, if you aren't as ambitious as Griffith, too bad. He'll use you in some capacity to get to where he wants to go. And there are, as Casca notes and Guts notes, there are smaller dreams in this camp that they're in. That the Band of the Hawk all have dreams that are in some way tied to Griffith's dream. So for him to be successful, like that's going to help so many other people too. So if there's a lot weighing on him that might have caused him to sell his soul to some demon, as we saw a few volumes past. And in this way, it also kind of paints Griffith as a Jesus-type Messiah figure. And a lot of the time in this in this particular volume, Casca is viewed as a sort of prophet to a disciple of the Messiah Griffith. So a little bit of biblical allegories there. And as I noted before, like this kind of viewpoint eases guilt. Like it helps Griffith deal with the pressures he's under, but also the many deaths that he's watching from the men that he liked. Miura is also once again talking about nihilism here. We saw that pretty early in the Berserk series as Guts just seemed to be aloof and not really holding on to any particular meaning, and even making fun of other people who had higher meanings and saying, nothing really matters but the end of the sword here. And we saw there that it was kind of a shield to protect himself from feeling anything or getting too attached, because he must have gone through quite a bit in the past, which we again saw in previous volumes. And Guts sees Griffith as noble, but does not share this dream that he has. He seems to be one of the few people in the Band of the Hawks who just doesn't want to go in the direction that Griffith is heading. Not because he doesn't agree with him, but just because he doesn't want to get attached to him. As he says, like, there is no meaning but the next fight, the next battle for Guts. That's all he's been trained to do. That was his upbringing, and it's too late for him to change now. Whether or not that's actually true is another question, but that's how Guts Guts sees it. And so there's a little bit of nihilism there, in that for Guts there is no meaning in this world there, but there's only the next fight, which is, you could argue, is a type of meaning that he's ascribed, but it's less noble and all-encompassing as the ambition that Griffith strives for. And I do like how Miura is constantly sort of building this nihilistic kind of aura of self-protection around Guts, where he's nihilistic, but that's not really what he believes. It's more of a shield to protect him from losing others, like Griffith does in this as we see what Griffith says here. I'll also note the art in this volume is pretty amazing. A lot of Renaissance type style art, just very beautiful, well structured, and it's very noisy, but you can definitely see a lot happening there, because of course battle is very noisy and you're going to have a lot of chaos on the battlefield, but you can still make out what's happening, which is what I really love about Miura's art style here. There is just one thing I don't like about this volume, and much of the Berserk series, is the sexism on display. Again, you can kind of see that on the cover with how Casca is portrayed. You don't see Guts making a sexy pose like that. And like, part of the problem is that Casca is portrayed as this battle-hardened warrior, but she's also a woman, and it seems like because she's a woman, she can't be on Guts' level. Although no one is really on Guts' level. Like, there's this entire thing where Casca's on her period and she can't fight as hard, which would make sense because you might not be able to do that while you're on a period and bleeding a lot. But it just seems like Miura is just constantly making jokes about this, and he doesn't really view Casca as an actual threat, as an actual force to be reckoned with. Although later in the volume, she does hold her own with several other soldiers. So that's I don't think the sexism is as entrenched as I believe it might be, but it still seems like a problem in this series. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on Volume 7 of Berserk by Kentaro Miura. As I've been saying, it is a high-quality series, and there is a lot to love about it. The awesome fights, the themes that Miura is exploring, and the amazing art. Definitely worth the price of admission, so of course go ahead and check out Volume 1 if you haven't done so already, and make your way up to Volume 7, which I'm talking about here. If you have any other things to say, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so other people can find out about this author or this manga series they don't already know. Also, join the Discord if you want to have further conversations down that path as well. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and castle sieging travels. Farewell.